This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Goonies Minute, everybody. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we carefully explore the movie Goonies minute by minute. This is Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we are here for the first of the final 3 minutes of Goonies. Goonies Minute is coming up on the end. And we are joined for the first of those 3 by Mr. Mark Landry, screenwriter and comic book author extraordinaire. Mark, thank you so much for joining us the last few days. How you been, man? How was your weekend?
My pleasure. I had a great weekend. I went to San Francisco with my wife and sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and we saw a 35mm print of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was amazing.
What?
That's pretty cool.
That is so cool.
It was great.
God.
It was at the Alamo Draft House, so you could have drinks and food, and it was just so... And the sound was amazing. It was like completely Dolby digital surround with, you know, the volume up at the right level, and I just...
That's so
yeah,
cool.
it was magical.
I'm so upset I haven't been to San Francisco. My parents have been multiple times. I've got to get out there.
It's a nice city.
Yeah.
It's very cool. It's cold.
Good deal.
Bring a jacket.
There you go.
Good food, good beer, good entertainment, good culture. That's why I want to go. I can deal with the cold weather.
Absolutely, and it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's a pretty city. Like everything is, you know, all these Victorian homes and townhomes. It's just great. It's like the opening of Full House.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, with all that said, you want to get into minute number 105?
Let's do it.
In the previous minute, the Fratellis had been arrested and were being hauled off to jail. Sloth was allowed to stay behind for some reason. Chunk turned to him to explain why. At minute 105, Chunk tells Sloth that he's going to live with him now. The two share a hug, but the moment is quickly soured when Mr. Perkins and Troy approach the rest of the group. Mr. Perkins tells Mr. Walsh that today is the day. Troy butts in and tells him to hurry up because they have more houses to tear down after theirs. Bran tries to bust through the crowd to get to Troy. Everyone, including the sheriff, has to hold him back. Mr. Perkins tells the sheriff that he wants him to witness the signing of the foreclosure documents. Mikey tells his dad that he is sorry that they weren't able to come through with a solution. Mr. Walsh gives an encouraging response about how everyone is now safe together, and that makes them the richest people in Astoria. Mr. Perkins quickly corrects him by telling him that he is looking at the richest people in Astoria. And thus ends minute 105 of the Goonies. So, you know, we spoke in the last few minutes about how the Goonies has a very rewarding ending because all of the sort of, now I don't want to say farewells, but everybody has their own little kind of warm family moment, and it just all has like such a nice payoff. But probably none so much as the ending for Sloth and Chunk, which is a relationship that we've become very invested in. In fact, you could even say that this is Chunk's movie, although he and Sloth are not in it for a large part of the time. So to have Chunk basically adopt Sloth, is, you know, a great ending to the character of Sloth.
What you think his parents think about that?
Yeah, they've been given about 30 seconds to be told, Mom, this deformed, very tall, slow gentleman is my new best friend.
Who is related to these terrible criminals.
Yeah, to these criminals, and we're going to adopt him. And then they're introduced to him, and in that span of time...
And then they tell each other they love each other, which is really sweet.
Which is very sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to see the reaction of Chunk's parents.
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice that, you know, that whole dynamic gets its own little conclusion.
Well, the parents may have been grateful that Sloth saved Chunk's life, and
That is true. That is true.
that's worth something.
Hey, any idea of? I mean, think about this. Must be so much of a small town. The fact that Mr. Perkins and his son Troy come all the way to the beach to ruin this little reunion.
Yep.
And another thing is, Mr. Perkins have another outfit because he's literally wearing the same thing.
Remember that we established that this movie takes place in less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
So
he was so excited about closing this
stay
deal
up
from
all
the night
night.
before that he slept in that outfit, even with that hat.
Pretty much.
I think he's the kind of guy who just has a closet full of that same stuff. He just he
Yeah.
has
He seems like the kind of dude who would do
no
that.
variety.
Kind of like
in his life.
the guys in the Matrix, you know. It's like they all look the same. They all wear the same outfits.
Yeah. So, you know,
He's a goon.
he's a goon. He really
And
is.
they're Goonies.
And they're Goonies. There you go. But you talk about somebody just playing this part like to the extreme.
Man, don't they?
Yeah.
Him and his son, you want to punch him.
Troy is he's a little too extreme for this movie that I think exists. It's a plausible, it's a realistic movie. None of the performances are that slapstick. And he is just so out of place, almost.
I can't remember the second that I happened to pause it. The look on Troy's face is the most smug look I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, boss.
God, I just want
The 50 other houses to tear down after yours.
Yeah. You know, he plays Jesse in the Jesse's Girl music video.
Oh, man.
That actor. And I think did he go on to have like a stuntman career or something?
Who was the stuntman? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
We had this so long ago.
It was so long ago. I know the guy who plays Mouth's dad is a stuntman. But
let's just talk about.
But
you guys have both done a little bit of acting, right? Like as an actor, how do you access that much of a jerk? You know, like we've all been a little bit of a jerk to somebody once in a while, but like, where do you go to get that?
Oh man,
where does he pull that from? I've known people in life like that. And I don't even know where they got it from. I'm like, how did you end up that way? It's too bad he wasn't on the commentary when they all got together to talk about it together.
Yeah, I know. I would love to follow up with some of the supporting characters from this movie. You know, let's see. Oh, yeah. I Was There Too is a great podcast. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it. Hosted by Matt Gorley, where he goes and finds like supporting actors from some famous movies. And gets them to tell the stories about what it was like working on set. Like, for example, he finds one of the Colonial Marines from Aliens who might have only had like one or two lines and gets them to tell all about their experience working on the movie. And there's some really cool episodes.
That's a cool idea
some of the
there.
people who were some of the bus passengers on Speed. And it's a very, very, very interesting show.
That's a great idea.
So I would love to write to him and say, listen, go find some of these people from the Goonies and get their stories, you know?
Yeah, or you guys got a Goonies podcast.
Yeah, I guess we could do that too. We could use that too.
That's the idea for another Patreon episode, right?
Yes. So, Mark, you have mentioned that you actually worked for the Donner Company. Tell us all about this.
Yeah, so it was the first summer between my first year and second year in film school out here in LA, and I got this internship. A guy who I had interned at Lucasfilm with was there and hooked me up with this internship. And I was in development, which means that you're basically interning for development executives. These are people who take in material to consider making movies out of, you know, screenplays, novels, stuff like that. So it was like a dream come true to be there because, you know, I loved, number one, Superman and the Goonies and, you know, not to mention all the Lethal Weapon movies, but Goonies and Superman when I was a kid were my favorite movies. And so it was Richard Donner's office and Lauren Schuler Donner, his wife, and she produces all the X-Men movies. And she was in Canada shooting, I think, X2 at the time, and Richard Donner was in another part of Canada shooting that time travel movie that he did. And it was really cool because there were two pieces of Goonies memorabilia that I'll go into that were in the office, and then we'll drop that and get back into the movie. But when you walked into the lobby, it was in a glass case on like this podium or pedestal was One-Eyed Willie's skull.
Wow.
From the film. Yeah, the actual prop. And so that was awesome, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. It was my own Goonie adventure. You know, I came from small town Louisiana, and I got all the way to Hollywood, and I was like, yeah, One-Eyed Willie, I beat you. You know, I got here, you know, and I'm a Goonie too.
So cool.
And then go ahead.
Oh, no, so you have seen the One-Eyed Willie skull up close and in person.
Oh, yes, my friend. Oh, yes.
Is it a real skull, or was it really a prop? Well, it's a prop, but it was a fake.
I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know. Maybe they got one of these ones that you can buy that were from a real cadaver. But I don't know. Honestly don't know. Because Richard Donner was shooting most of the time. He wasn't available for me to ask the question.
Yeah.
which was unfortunate.
Man, they look so real in the whole movie. Those
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
all of those, they did a great job of making. It didn't look like the skeletons in our biology class.
No,
You know,
no, not the
like,
plastic polished ones. And this is one thing that
Yeah,
the 80s
yeah.
movies did really well is they had, you can tell a movie from the 80s because it didn't have any CG, you know, and it had all these real practical effects, like cars would flip over, and there would be explosions, and there would be skeletons all over the place. You know, look at all the Indiana
Yeah.
Jones movies. There's skeletons all over the place.
I think that's one of the things that makes the Goonies work is the sort of untouched feel of all of the stuff in the caves, especially the pirate ship. How real it feels because you can tell that it was sort of there and then poof, like nobody touched it all at once for hundreds of years.
Yeah, there's
And
a lot
here
of
we are, the first people.
dust and cobwebs.
Yeah, exactly. And you know the level of detail, like you're saying, with the skeletons, and they're just positioning. Like this is the last place these people were. There's a certain kind of magic in that. I think.
Yeah,
That's just so cool.
So-
it's so
cool.
But,
It's so well done in the film. And the only other piece I'd say of memorabilia from the Goonies that I saw was, you know, the DVD cover is this painting of the Goonies kind of standing in a pyramid formation. It's not the Drew Struzan one where they're hanging from the stalactite or stalagmite. But it's the one where One-Eyed Willie's skull is in the foreground with the treasure. That original painting was in the little office where
that
the
is so cool.
interns were.
That's pretty cool.
It was
very cool.
so neat. It was up there with, and it wasn't even behind glass or anything. It was just like, oh, I could touch it if I wanted to.
Wow. Did you?
I'm not going to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, that's very
Yes,
cool,
I
man.
did.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so something else I want to get to. Now, the first episode that we had you on, Minute 101, you said that you have some kind of thoughts on real estate villains in movies. And it sounded like it was a big deal to you, so I wanted to save it for your last minute here, 105. What is that all about?
Oh, yes. So in the 80s, you know, you think about the Goonies or Batteries Not Included, and there are so many other films where, you know, these greedy, capitalistic, mostly real estate people, think of OCP in RoboCop, these were the main villains of the 80s. They were just these people who were kicking people out of their homes, they were gentrifying neighborhoods, and they were, you know, just greedy. And I thought that, you know, that was my development as a kid. That's what, you know, rich real estate people were just jerks, you know, and that's kind of bled into...
Hey, a lot of people would say we're dealing with one of those right now.
Yeah, that's right. We got a Baton Rouge-based real estate, licensed real estate agent.
Yeah, but I'm
Christopher
residential.
McMahon. You're residential.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, that's the
residential.
difference.
Yeah, so
But,
you're helping people get homes. You're not destroying homes.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's the difference, yeah. I mean, I will say that I married, my wife is a wonderful person. She's amazingly brilliant and sweet and talented and you know, one of the smartest people I've ever met. And she's in commercial real estate. So we have these clashes where I'll tell her a story that I'm thinking of writing, and there's this real estate villain, and I'll think it's really cool because it's like the movies that I grew up with. And she's like, hello.
Yeah.
You know, we're not all
that's
evil.
pretty good.
And she's right. I mean, they're not. I mean,
Well, yeah, of course.
but a story is a
what's that?
story, and you have to have a villain.
What's that one? Even American Beauty, you have the king. You remember that? The guy that's the king that ends up cheating with Spacey's wife.
Who was it? Not Kyle MacLachlan. Who was it? Peter. Come on, Sex Lesson Video.
Oh, yeah.
Peter Gallagher?
Yeah, Peter Gallagher.
Yeah, it's like the king.
Yeah.
So to a lesser degree, but
I think
I
Peter
always think of
Gallagher
that
can only
movie.
play one type of character. Or maybe Sex Lies and Videotape, he's playing the same guy that he's playing in American Beauty. But I tell you what, gentlemen, that's all I've got for Minute 105. How about you?
Let me just say one thing,
Okay.
and it's to continue the part about Mr. Perkins and Troy.
Okay.
There was a cheesy line that Mr. Walsh says after Mikey's like, you know, we had our hands on the treasure, and he says, "You and Bran are home safe. That makes us the richest people in all of Astoria." And then Mr. Perkins says, "Walsh, you're looking at the richest people in all of Astoria." It's like, oh
Just
gosh.
you wait.
It's the classic villain comment, the classic 80s right there.
I'll give it
a
this.
great line.
You know, Chris, whenever you were saying whenever the Fratellis make the Goonies dump all of the treasure out on the deck of the Inferno, you said that it just hurts you to see that.
It did. It felt it in my gut.
Right. We don't know how this movie's going to end because they don't make away with any treasure. And so Mr. Walsh's line there is almost like a whole thing, like that's the reward. We still have each other. And it really sets you up to think that this movie's going to end with that.
Yes.
And that everyone's going to be okay because that's the real treasure or something like that. And that's not very satisfying,
right.
but I find myself, let's say I haven't seen the movie before, accepting it at that moment and saying,
yeah,
okay,
you
well,
are
I guess,
accepting it.
I guess that's the thing.
How about the line, I forgot about this, the line that Mikey said right before Mr. Walsh says that. He says, we tried, we lost the treasure trying to save our lives.
Yeah.
in the process of saving lives. Something to that effect.
Something to that effect. So, I mean, it really sets you up for kind of I guess I'll be satisfied with this being the resolution of the movie thing. And then as soon as Rosalita looks in that bag, I mean, it really picks you up. So you get this incredibly sentimental moment with Sloth being adopted. And then you get Mr. Walsh's like, hey, as long as we have each other, we're okay. And you get all warm and fuzzy inside, and then all of a sudden she's tricked by something in the bag, and it just really rouses up your attention and your excitement here right in that moment.
It's terrific screenwriting.
It's a terrific piece of writing. Yes, exactly, exactly. So, yeah, man, I guess on that note, Mr. Screenwriter Extraordinaire, it's been awesome having you on the last... the last 4 minutes of this movie.
Dude, it's been...
And
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
It's been awesome having you on the last 5 minutes of this movie.
Guys,
Mark.
It's been an incredible 5 days for me. Thank you very much.
There you go.
I really appreciate
Absolutely.
you having me on. I'd love to come back and talk about anything you guys ever want to talk about again.
Awesome.
And I'll keep listening.
Good deal, man. Well, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for sticking around this entire time. We have 2 episodes left of Goonies Minute. We're going to be wrapping things up on Wednesday, May 10th, with minute number 107. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined again by our good friend and jeweler extraordinaire, Jeffrey Collada, who's going to be helping us determine if what Rosalita finds would actually be enough to save the Goondocks. And then we're going to be wrapping things up on Wednesday with Kyle, my co-host from Ghostbusters Minute and Jurassic Park Minute. And speaking of Kyle, we actually had a Patreon episode that we released on Saturday where we talked about all things Goonies, including a subplot that was in one of the original drafts of the script that was about 2 gorillas that had escaped from a zoo, and they stole a golf cart at one point, and then they show up in the caves at some points, and they end up driving away in a convertible at the end. It was so weird. And let's see, we also talked about the various iterations of Goonies video games and all kinds of stuff. It was really cool. So if anyone is interested in hearing that, go to patreon.com/PeleMedia, and it's the most recent episode. So go check it out. All right, well, that's it for today, everybody. Tune back in tomorrow for minute number 106, and until then, this is Brady.
And this is Chris.
This is Mark.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies
Never
say
die. All right, see you later, everybody. Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram @GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/PeleMedia. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/PeleMedia and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/PeleMedia.